Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the back seat of my car, which I guarantee I have never said to anybody ever. The weather today is particularly challenging. It's supposed to be raining until at least sort of mid-morning, maybe even midday. But this gives me a perfect opportunity to share with you a little story, a little bit of experience that I think all landscape photographers should be aware of, because it was a lesson that I almost learned the hard way. Now, my landscape camera of choice is this, a Sigma fpL. And as I've already documented on this channel, I use an EVF because I'm long-sighted and I have to use reading glasses for stuff that's close to me, and an EVF I can focus to my eyes and I can use the camera without having to put my glasses on. Coupled with this camera is several lenses, but the one I use the most is this one, which is a 28-70 contemporary lens. So that's my standard setup, if you like. And the Sigma fpL is marketed as being weather sealed. It's got 40 odd, I'll put the exact number somewhere, points on it where it is weather sealed. Let me recount to you what happened. I was out in the landscape on a day where the weather was challenging from time to time, shall we say. But I was being sensible and making sure that I kept under cover, kept under an umbrella, all that good stuff. But our last location for the day, I was out with a chum of mine. When we got there, it was nice and dry, but we could see wet weather heading towards us. And we were using that occasion, if you like, to, get those lovely moody landscapes with mountains and low cloud, and you could see this sweep of rain heading towards us. But when the rain arrived, it was pretty heavy, and despite my best efforts with umbrellas and trying to keep my back to the wind and all that good stuff, my kit did get wet. Now, as I've already mentioned, this camera is marketed as being weather sealed. I know the lens isn't marketed as being weather sealed, but I've used Sigma lenses for years. In my Formula One days, I used their lenses extensively in the wind, the rain, the snow, hail, really icy days in January where it was minus something all day, and those lenses never skipped a beat. So I was reasonably confident that with this lens, as long as I took sensible precautions, I would be okay. But the camera, the EVF and the lens did get wet. When I got back to my accommodation for that evening, I got everything out of the bag, laid it all out on the table that was in the room, toweled it all off, with the intention of leaving it there overnight in order to dry. Again, it's a sensible thing to do, rather than leaving it in a wet bag. But on a whim, I decided to switch the camera on and just review some of the images that I'd taken that day. And when I switched the camera on, I was faced with a black screen and the f-stop value was flashing at me in red. Clearly not quite right. So quickly switched the camera off, gave it another towel down and a bit of a dry, and thought, look, okay, so it's got a little bit wet, it'll be fine, just put it to one side, let it dry a little bit more. So I think I went and had a shower, came back, switched it on again, same result. And that was the point at which I thought, oh blimey, I've tipped this camera over the edge, and I've ruined a couple of £1,000s worth of kit. So what I elected to do was take everything off the camera. So lens off, EVF off, battery out, memory card out, basically got the camera down to its, you know, its bare bones body. In the accommodation was an electric heater, an electric panel heater. So I got a chair, put a towel on the chair, and I rested the camera, the lenses, the EVF, everything sort of on that chair in front of the panel heater, whacked the panel heater up to maximum, opened the window in the room so it didn't get too hot, and just elected to just leave the thing to dry overnight and keep my fingers crossed. Now, as you can probably imagine, I didn't sleep very well that night, and I was quite worried that I had done my kit some serious harm that was going to be expensive. As you can imagine, I was up early the next morning, moved everything away from the panel heater just to allow it to cool down a little bit, and very nervously put the battery back in and switched the camera on. And I had a normal response from the camera. Put the EVF back on, normal response from the camera. Put the memory card back in, normal response from the camera. And I'm very pleased to say that from that point on and to this day, the camera has performed perfectly, not missed a beat. But what I decided to do was reach out to Sigma UK and ask them a couple of questions about my experience. So I'm very lucky in that through one of Sigma's ambassadors, I enjoy an excellent relationship with Sigma UK. And I reached out to a contact and said, hey, this happened, who can I talk to? And they put me in touch with one of their engineers. So I described exactly what happened, what kit I was using, what response I got. And to cut a very long story short, the way in which I choose to use this camera compromises its weather sealing. The biggest aspect is this, the EVF. With the EVF on and various ports on the side of the body open, this camera is not weather sealed. The EVF is not weather sealed. And I was also advised that, you know, yeah, the lenses are quite rugged and quite robust, but also they are not weather sealed. So what you could say is that I dodged a little bit of a bullet on that particular day, in that the camera did come back to life after I dried it out and everything has worked perfectly. But it made me think. There aren't many occasions where I go out into the landscape and it's bucketing it down with rain. I mean, it's not a very pleasant experience for a start. I prefer to be on the edge of weather. So as rain clears or as rain is coming in, it is quite unusual for me to be out in pouring rain with my kit. But it does happen. And if I think back to that occasion where the camera did get wet, we were in a location where it was dry and we could see rain coming towards us. Again, that's kind of like the edge of weather, isn't it? But what I actually now need to think about is some sort of protection for this, so that if I'm in that situation, I can cover the camera up, I can capture the edge of the weather, and then I can put it away, safe in the knowledge that I'm not going to have a repeat of what happened all those months ago out in that rainstorm. So anybody that's looked into any kind of weather protection for their camera, as they will know, there is a wide range of options that are available. Some of them very plush, some of them quite simple and quite straightforward. And the range of prices is just, well, it's ridiculous. Now, as I said just now, I don't go out into the landscape in the rain all that often. It happens occasionally. So I want something that's going to do the job, but I don't necessarily want to pay a fortune for it. I just want an option that I can reach for should I find myself in that position at any time in the future. It's a bit like having one of those portable rain mac things, you know, the very thin waterproof coats and leggings that you can get that will squeeze down into a small pack. The kind of thing that you can just have on you at any time and throw on in order to keep the worst of the weather off. So I did quite a lot of research, obviously using the internet, and I found a solution from a company called JJC. And this is an item, it's a camera protector rain cover RI5. I will hold it up to the camera there. If you can't see it properly, I'll put a caption on the screen somewhere. These come in a pack of 3. There's a gag in there somewhere. I'm going to be brutally honest, I've never actually used this before, so I've no idea how it actually goes on the camera. This is the first time I've actually done it. But, okay. What I'm going to try and do is set up the tripod here in the car, which is where I am, and see if I can fit this over my camera. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. It's like a bag within a bag. I presume that's so that if you've got a really long lens, you've actually got something long enough. And if you haven't, I did say I hadn't done this before, then you can just slide it back inside. Which takes it back to its normal size. There's also a, I don't know what you call it, there's a cord around the front, which I presume means that you can seal it around the lens. But let's get the camera out somehow. And let's see if we can figure out how we put this over the camera. I might, rather than tediously show you every single minute, I might just sort of speed it up a little bit. But right, let's give it a try. So I'm going to put the camera on the tripod. I'm going to extend the sunshade, because I do tend to use that when it's raining. No. Maybe the whole thing needs to come over. Anyway. So, unfortunately, I proceeded to carry on talking to the camera, even though it had gimbaled across to the right, and you could no longer see what I was doing. So we're going to have to scratch that plan and decamp to my playroom just to finish doing the demo of putting the rain cover on. Now, clearly this will no longer have been the first time that I've done it. I have actually now used this rain cover a couple of times in anger. But one of the things that I learned quite quickly was that this additional portion that's folded inside, that does actually need to come out. Let me just pull it out. Hopefully you'll be able to see it's at a slight kink. and that's, I presume it's deliberate, but it actually enables me to pull the cover over the camera and then down. With this additional piece tucked inside the main tube, couldn't actually do that. So let's just stick it on very quickly. So all I've done is scrunch it up a little bit so there's not as much, and then just tease it over. It doesn't take many minutes. There we go, that's the bit that's kinked. So that's now over the main body of the camera itself, and then you've got the rest of it going over the lens, which I can then just pull back, and this cord then tightens up at the front. And there we go, job done. I've still got access to all of the buttons and the screen and all the rest of it. I don't use a touchscreen, actually. I tend to use the buttons. Now, if I wanted to use the touchscreen, then clearly I'd need to lift the bag up a little bit. Let me just turn that round. I need to lift the bag up a little bit in order to be able to use the touchscreen. But I mean, hopefully you can see that even though I'm doing that, the camera itself is still covered, and is therefore out of the elements. As I say, I don't do that, which means I can pull the bag all the way down, and then I've still got access to all of the buttons, albeit through the surface of the bag. It's not a, what was I going to say? It's a see-through plastic bag. There's no other way of describing it. But as I said in the sort of lead up to this in the car, I don't use my camera out in the rain deliberately very often. There are times I've been out and I've been caught out, and I think this is where this particular solution just ticks all the boxes. It's cheap and cheerful, it does the job, it gives me access to everything. What more can I say? And I get 3 of them in a pack. So if one of these was to accidentally rip, okay, it would end up going in the recycling bin, and I would use one of the other ones. But it does the job, and it does the job very, very well. Yeah, what more can I say? One other item to mention. So on the same day that I encountered my waterproofing issue, my photo buddy who was with me was using another camera from a very well-known make. Doesn't matter the make and it doesn't matter the model. And that camera is renowned for being weather sealed. However, the day after, we were at a location and he discovered one of the selection dials, and I think one of the buttons either stopped working or was working very intermittently. Now, he got round it by using the touchscreen, so no big deal. We could carry on with our trip and make the most of it. But he did actually send his camera away, and it cost him near enough a couple of £100 UK in order to get it sorted out. And what he was told was that, yep, okay, this camera is marketed as being weather sealed. However, the seals are made of rubber. Rubber does degrade over time. So I think the lesson that he learned was, okay, if you get caught out in a shower, you're probably going to get away with it if you're sensible with your kit and you get it under cover, or you put some sort of cover over the top. To just entrust it out in the rain regardless is probably going to result in an expensive repair bill. So, you know, he's done something similar. He's got his own rain cover now as well, just to cater for those times when, do you know what, we're right on the edge of weather and we're likely to get some really good conditions, and we want to carry on shooting. So I do apologise for this video being in 2 sections. Why I didn't notice the camera had actually moved to one side, so you could no longer see what I was doing. I honestly don't know. But anyway, that's where we are at. So I'll leave a link to this item in the description below. It won't be for everybody. I will make that completely clear. But for me, it works. It works perfectly. So hope it's been useful and informative. Next video, we will be back out in the landscape, not playing with bits of kit, but I thought this was a significant enough lesson for me to actually recount it to all of you, so that hopefully you don't encounter what I encountered. So until we're next out in the landscape, everybody, please take care, stay well and stay safe, and I shall see you all again soon. Take care. Bye-bye for now.